and I left her sobbing.
The cameras were never set to roll that day. Production had finished hours before, and most of the crew had long since headed home. The sun had begun its gradual drop behind the pines, casting long golden strips of light through the blinds of Kody Brown's Flagstaff living room. The air was too quiet, too motionless, like a room that had been cleared of laughter and filled with a heavy silence instead. No one was scheduled to shoot, but the weary but intuitive assistant producer had left one handheld camera rolling just in case. They all sensed that something was off. Kody hadn't moved from his seat for hours. He sat slumped over, elbows on his knees, fixed on the ground. The table before him was littered with half-full coffee cups, papers, and a phone that constantly flashed with unread messages. Christine's name came and went on the screen, but he didn't budge, not even to turn it off. The red recording light flashed in the corner, unobserved. When the collapse started, it wasn't noisy. It was slow, nearly unnoticeable at first. Just the whiff of air in his throat as he grumbled something under his breath. One of the sound guys, clearing out cords a few feet away, turned and stopped. Kody's voice was trembling. "She walked out," he whispered, the words breaking like they had been practiced 1,000 times and still didn't sound true. "She really walked out." The assistant producer hesitated, hesitating over the camera's stop button. They weren't supposed to shoot off hours. The show had limits, or at least it did. But what they were watching wasn't television. It was real. It was raw. It was the kind of moment no script, no setup, could ever hope to replicate. They rolled it. Kody rubbed his face fiercely, planting his palms on his eyes. His hair was disheveled, his voice reedy. The man who'd constructed an empire of dominance, who'd spent decades ruling the center of every scene, now appeared small. "Do you have any idea what it's like?" he grumbled, voice cracking. "To see someone stop loving you in real life?" "Ha." He chuckled, a staccato, acid laugh not anywhere near humor. "They all believe I'm the beast." A low voice coming from somewhere, off camera, spoke up. "Do you want to shut off the recorder?" Kody did not respond. He sat straight ahead, eyes unfocused. "You can't do it," he told them. "No one can stop it. You can't put out a house fire once a house is on fire." Outside, a wind began to rise. The branches rubbed against the side of the house, a gentle whisper that filled the space between sentences. He leaned back in the chair and looked at the ceiling. He said nothing for a long time. The silence was painful. The producer glanced at the camera's battery life. It was already low. They considered stopping, but something held them back. Something was on the verge of shattering. When he finally answered, his voice was different, softer, shaking. "You know, I used to tell them that love would last forever," he said, "that God would tie us together no matter what. But love isn't eternal. It's a choice. And I chose not to choose them anymore." His eyes watered. "They chose not to choose me back." He picked up one of the coffee cups and turned it in his hands, like he was trying to find answers at the bottom. "Christine used to say that she felt invisible. I told her she was overreacting." His jaw clenched. "But maybe she wasn't. Maybe I wanted her to disappear. Maybe it was easier to love the idea of family than to actually love the people in it." He put the cup down too forcefully, the wood clinking against the ceramic. "You don't get it," he declared, his voice increasing. "Whenever they gazed at me, I could see it. The resentment, the disappointment. They blamed me for all of it, for the moves, for the debt, for the distance." He pounded his hand on the table. But who was present each day? Who attempted to hold this family together when everyone else was scattering? The sound echoed in the empty room. No one answered. The camera whirred softly, still recording. Kody's breathing had become uneven. His anger rose, collided with his grief, and tangled into something unrecognizable. "You think I wanted this?" he shouted suddenly, startling everyone. You think I wanted to lose my kids? My wives? My life? I gave everything. Everything. His voice cracked mid-sentence. He pressed his hands against his chest. And for what? For them to tell the world that I'm the villain? He jumped up, pacing, energy leaking out of him like water through cracks. His face was red, his movements jerky and agitated. They're rewriting the story, he said. Each interview, each post, Christine's the hero, and I'm the one who broke it all. You wait. You'll see. They'll make me the monster who brought down his family. The producer attempted to soothe him. Kody, no one's saying that. He turned around. No one? Are you seeing the same show that I'm seeing? His laughter was bitter, furious. They eat it up. They love the drama. Poor Christine, poor Janelle, stuck with the narcissist. He exaggerated air quotes. That's what they say about me online now, huh? A narcissist. A manipulator. They don't even know me. The rage dissipated as fast as it had emerged. His shoulders slumped. He reclined in the chair again, hands trembling. Perhaps they do, he whispered. Perhaps that's precisely who I am. For a few seconds, there was only the sound of the wind outside and the soft ticking of the thermostat. The camera picked up the barely perceptible glint of tears running down his cheeks. He did not brush them away. Do you want to hear the truth? He asked softly. I did not lose them all simultaneously. I lost them slowly. Each time I made them feel inferior. Each time I instructed them to wait, to be patient, to offer a bit more. And by the time I knew what I had done, they had already disappeared. He forward leaned, elbows on the table, his voice dipping to a near whisper. Christine was the first one to notice it. She knew before anyone else that the family was suffocating. She used to ask me, "Do you even see me anymore?" And I'd brush it off. I told her I was too busy to build our dream. But perhaps I was building a cage instead. The light from the battery blinked red. The manufacturer nonchalantly replaced it with a new one. Kody did not even notice. He was elsewhere in his head. You know what's ironic? He continued, trying to muster a tiny smile. When she said she was leaving, I did not even attempt to prevent her from going. I said, if that is what you must do to be happy, go. But the moment she closed the door, I wanted to pursue her. I just couldn't. My pride wouldn't let me. He slowly exhaled, a trembling sound that almost turned to a sob. I saw her drive away, he said, and I told myself she'd return, that she always did. But this time, she didn't even glance in the mirror. The room was silent once more. One of the crew exited quietly, unable to bear witness. The others remained. It wasn't their job to console him, but they couldn't tear their eyes away either. What they were seeing wasn't an actor putting on a show for the cameras. It was an actor coming apart in front of them, piece by piece. Kody's head jerked up, red-rimmed eyes. Do you think they'll forgive me? He whispered, voice tiny. Do you think they'll ever understand that I was only trying to grab on? He laughed faintly. No, of course not. People don't forgive the one who shatters them. They move on. They forget you even existed. He got up once more, crossed to the window, and gazed out at the dying light. His reflection in the glass was older, wearier than he was. I used to think I was the leader, he whispered. Now I don't even know who I am. The camera zoomed in just a little, onto his reflection. Behind him, the house stood empty, too large for one man, too vacant for the sounds it once contained. He leaned his hand on the window, fingers shaking. You can turn it off now, he breathed. But no one reacted. Then, almost under his breath, he said something that no one forgot. If they saw me now, he murmured, they'd know I was never the man I said I was. Undefined. The screen flickered as the camera battery hit low again. The producer finally turned it off. The red light faded. Outside, The last of the sunlight disappeared behind the horizon. Inside, Kody stood alone, staring at nothing. It was the video they were never meant to capture. A moment that the world wasn't supposed to witness. But once it had happened, it could never be unclicked. It would mark the start of the demise, and the revelation that shook everything to its core. Undefined, the fall apart had only just started. The next morning after Kody's meltdown, the house was a scene in a time freeze. The same drained coffee cups still littered the table, and the air was thick, nearly damp with remorse. He hadn't slept. The blinds remained shut, allowing just a whisper of light to fall on the floor, creating faint stripes. The night had not left him alone, but rather long hours spent reliving each moment he wished he could forget. Each sentence he had ever spoken to Christine, each moment of silence that had spoken louder than words themselves. He sat in the same place as always, same shirt on, gazing at the same mess. The camera didn't turn on this time, at least not yet, but the silence was stifling. He massaged his temples, cursing under his breath. "It's all gone," he said. "Every single thing I built." Then there was the knock. Not too loud, but sharp enough to make him jump. He didn't move initially. For a moment, he believed he was hallucinating. Then there was another. "Kody?" The voice was one he knew, cautious, soft, guarded. It was Janelle. She had promised to visit against her better judgment. She didn't want to do this, but something in his midnight message, fragmented, broken sentences, had concerned her. "Come in," he replied at last, his tone flat. The door groaned open and Janelle came in. She looked wary, as if she were entering a room that was filled with specters. She glanced around at the mess, the blinds pulled, the man she hardly knew. "You look terrible," she whispered. He let out a brief, unamused laugh. "Thanks for the truth." She paused before sitting down across from him. There was a time when sitting with him at this table equated family plans, budgets, kids, dreams. Now it felt like sitting across from a stranger in a room haunted by everything that was once good. "I heard you were having a rough night," she said gently. "Rough," he repeated, gazing down at the floor. "That's one way to say it." He glanced up, his eyes raw and tired. "Ever feel like everything you touched just fell apart?" Janelle breathed slowly. "Kody, you're not the only person to lose something." "I lost everyone," he said. "That's not the same." Her gaze narrowed a fraction. "You didn't lose us, Kody. You pushed us away." He winced. "That's what everyone claims. That I was the one who destroyed everything. But I was trying to keep it together. I was the one trying to keep order as everybody else was walking out." Janelle leaned forward. "Order? You referred to it as order, but it was control. You attempted to make us fit into a life that worked only for you. You did not want wives. You wanted followers." He gritted his teeth. "That's not fair." "No, it is not," she replied, her voice firm. "It's not right that Christine had to plead for love. It's not right that I had to feel like a business partner rather than a wife. And it's not right that you get to sit here now and act like you didn't witness it happening." Her words struck him more forcefully than she suspected. He settled back speechless. Once he had nothing to say. Janelle rose, went to the window, and pushed back the blinds. Sunlight flooded the room, cold and unyielding. Dust hung suspended in the air like infinitesimal reminders of abandonment. "You designed this house to be a monument to your dream," she told him. "Now it's nothing but walls. Perhaps it's time you acknowledge that the dream is dead." He glared up at her, his complexion ashen. "So that's it? You're finished too?" She didn't respond immediately. Her voice trembled a little when she finally did speak. "I don't know. I still love you, Kody. But loving isn't the same as remaining." That sentence lingered in the air like a verdict. He turned his back on her, gazing out at the golden light slicing through shadows. "Christine said the same thing," he growled. Janelle let out a sigh. "Perhaps you should begin listening." He gazed at her, and for an instant, the facade of his pride crumbled. "What am I to do?" he demanded, his voice trembling. "Everybody's gone. I don't even know who I am outside of the family." Janelle hesitated. "Perhaps that's what you have to learn. Who you are when you're not being the leader. She began to head toward the door. Kody's voice brought her up short. Did Christine send you? She turned around, shaking her head. No, Kody. Christine doesn't send people anymore. She doesn't have to. And then she walked out, the slam of the door resounding through the house, like the period at the end of a sentence he didn't want to finish. He sat there for a long time, the sunlight inching across the table. His hands trembled as he reached for his phone again. Christine's name still sat at the top of the messages, dozens of unread texts between them, stretching back months. The last one he had sent her read, "You're making a mistake." She had never replied. He opened the conversation thread and typed a sentence, deleted it, typed another one, deleted that too. He glared at the blinking cursor as if it taunted him. At last, he muttered to himself, "You can't fix something that doesn't want to be fixed." It was then the phone rang. He sprang up, startled by the unanticipated sound. The face on the screen wasn't Christine. It was Robyn. He paused before responding. What? His voice was cold, defensive. Kody! The sound of Robyn's voice came across the line, strained and trembling. You have to stop speaking with the crew off camera. They called me. They told me you were having a meltdown last night. You can't let them see that. They'll make it about something else. They'll turn it into another story. He massaged his forehead. It's not a story, Robyn. It's my life collapsing. Do you think they care about that? She snapped. They care about ratings. They care about making you look insane while Christine is the victim once more. Oh, please, Kody, don't give them ammunition. Too late, he grumbled. There was silence at the end of the line. Then Robyn's voice softened. You just need to come home. We'll get through this, okay? We always do. He didn't reply. The term home felt differently now. It wasn't a sanctuary anymore. It was a reminder of what he had lost. When the phone call ended, he put the phone down carefully and relaxed against the back. He looked up at the ceiling once more, as he had the previous night. But this time, there was no rage, only weariness. The assistant producer came by later that day to pick up the remaining equipment. When she noticed Kody remained sitting there, she stopped. Hey, she said quietly. You okay? He stared at her blankly. You recorded all night, didn't you? She froze. Yes. He nodded slowly. I guessed. She waited before she asked, Do you want us to erase it? He stared beyond her, his eyes far away. No, keep it. Let them see. The producer frowned. See what? He looked up at her, a faint, broken smile crossing his face. The truth. The part they never show. That evening, while the tape was being backed up in the editing room, one of the team stopped and watched a small piece of it again. It was when Kody had said, Maybe that's exactly who I am. The voice was low, on the verge of inaudibility, but the significance of the words for a man seeing that the mask he had worn for years was finally breaking was overwhelming. Outside, in the vacant house, Kody stood on the porch. The Arizona night was chilly, the stars bright and far away. He gazed out toward the dark shape of the Coyote Pass land, the land that had been his dream, his promised land. Now nothing but dirt and quiet. He breathed softly into the wind, nearly to himself. Perhaps the land was not cursed. Perhaps I was. The wind carried the words away. He stayed there for a long time, watching the horizon, waiting for a sign that never came. The cameras weren't rolling that night, but they would again soon. And what they captured next would change everything. The following morning began differently. For the very first time in weeks, Kody went out of the house. He didn't shave his face. He didn't style his hair. He didn't even take the trouble to conceal the fatigue that hung beneath his eyes. There was no script to read, no producer calling him to set, no microphone attached to his shirt. He just drove. Nowhere. No purpose. The desert went by in a haze of dark reds and browns, and the silence was welcome for a time. It was one of the few things that didn't ask anything of him. He passed Coyote Pass. The wind was brutal that day, whipping up dust in waves that gave the land a ghostly appearance. He stopped near the edge of the property and got out. The air was dry and sharp, filling his lungs with the sting of memory. This land was supposed to be their future. He could still hear his voice echoing in his head from that day years ago. This is where we'll all build together. One big house, one family, one dream. He laughed bitterly. The land was still empty. No foundation, no homes, no laughter. Just the sound of wind moving through dead grass. He walked for a while, kicking at the dirt, as if he could shake something loose. His phone buzzed in his pocket, breaking the trance. It was a text from one of the producers. "We're shooting interviews today." Christine agreed to talk about the separation. He stood still, reading the message. For a long time, he didn't budge. Then, without thinking, he dialed back. "When?" he growled. "In an hour," the voice said. "You don't have to come, Kody. It's just her segment." He hung up on her. His hands were shaking as he returned to the truck. The ride home was not real. He reminded himself that he wasn't going there to fight with her. He just wanted to see her. Maybe to remind himself that she existed, not just a specter on television. The studio was empty when he walked in. A couple of crew members were staring at him in surprise. One of them came forward hesitantly. Kody, we didn't expect you." "I know," he replied. "I just need to speak with her." They shared nervous glances. "She's in the middle of an interview," one whispered. "We can't—" But before anyone could prevent him, he was already heading down the hallway towards the soundstage. He heard her voice before seeing her, smooth, steady, the same tone she had when she had finally informed him she was leaving. It held the gravity of one who had already shed all her tears and was now just speaking the truth. As he entered the doorway, she was facing the camera, her hair back, face set in a calm but raw look. The voice of the interviewer posed the question. "Christine, what was the moment you knew it was over?" She drew a slow breath, eyes flicking off camera, and then responded quietly. "When I realized that he ceased seeing me as his wife and began to see me as a problem to be solved." Kody's heart pounded in his chest. For a moment, he thought she would notice. She didn't. She continued speaking, her voice firm. "I pleaded with him to speak with me, to hear me out, but he'd already made up his mind I was no longer in the plan. That's when I realized I couldn't keep holding out for a man who'd already abandoned me emotionally." He stood there, listening silently, each word slicing through him like shards of glass. The producer noticed him and hurried over, speaking sharply under her breath. "Kody, you can't be in here. Please, step outside." But Kody didn't budge. He was fixed to the ground. He saw Christine's face relax, her eyes getting misty in the harsh light. "I don't hate him," she spoke softly. "I just don't know him anymore." That was when he finally spun and moved away. His footsteps resonated down the hall, quick and unsteady. The crew didn't follow. They merely exchanged uncomfortable glances. Everyone had witnessed enough of Kody's spiraling out of control lately to realize when to leave him alone. Outside, he hesitated by the parking lot, resting against his truck, gasping for air. The sun was too bright, too harsh,